in just sort of the way we react to financial conversations, the way the money makes us feel. Money is heavily emotional. Okay, so let me know if you know what I'm talking about here. Money is very emotional. To give you examples, imagine if somebody suddenly told you that you won the lottery. So I want you to meditate as a financial consciousness exercise. Part of consciousness is meditation. So I want you to just take a minute and reflect and just imagine how good you'd feel if somebody called you on the phone out of the blue and said, "Hey, you just hit the Powerball. Right now, your life is going to change. You're going to get at least $500 million. Even after taxes, you might have a quarter of a billion, right? All your financial problems are going to go away. You're now going to have all the money to do anything that you want to do. You can buy a private jet. You can go and get you a mansion. You can do whatever you want for your kids. You have generational wealth that will last forever. You suddenly have more money than most corporations. Imagine how that will make you feel. Like, so just take a minute and just kind of reflect on that, right? And like make a comment in the chat, maybe a one-word comment, and tell me how that would make you feel, how ecstatic you'd feel, or if you feel a real emotional sensation. Like, I don't know about y'all, but just me describing how great it would be to have like $250 million or something, that made me feel good. Like I literally felt my body like relax. And I felt my spirit and my mood elevate. Like it was like drinking a cup of coffee or something in the morning. Like I literally feel better after just even having that conversation, even visualizing having that kind of money. And so what that kind of does is it really makes me reflect on what money really can do to our psyche, like what physical and mental health effects it can really have on you. And let me know. Let me see. I'm gonna look in the chat and see what comments you guys made. Yeah, Ginger says she feels relieved. Winston says I would feel incredibly happy. Sharon says creates peace. Okay, tequila freedom. Nicole, Grand Rising. Good morning to you too. Helen, relief. Let's see, stress reliever. I see the word relief a lot. Laura Eubanks says nervous. Interesting. You'd be nervous to have that money. Okay. All right. So let's see here. By the way, good morning to you, Darlene and Lashonda and Laura Eubanks. I see you, and Juanita and Tracy. Describe in one word. Just describe in one word as I described to you. Okay, happy then stress, says Elaine. Okay, how did that make you feel? Like just imagining somebody giving you, $250 million. Okay, Dave says freedom and security. Good morning to you, Henry. Veronica says purposeful. Okay. Kim Hitchcock, wonderful. AC free. Sharon says energized. Let's see what else. Well, you know what's funny to me though is what's crazy to me, Nicole. Nicole says power. Okay. What's crazy to me is that all this was just made up, right? I literally just pulled $100 million or $250 million out of thin air. It was actually $500 million, but the IRS came and they took half your money, right? So I took $250 million. Donna says ecstatic flood of emotions. Lakia says concern. Okay, so two things that pop out to me in your reactions is number one, um, notice that this was all made up, right? This is all just literally a Dr. Boyce fantasy that I concocted literally 30 seconds ago, just as a test to see what our reaction would be. That's the first thing. So none of this was real. But what was real was your emotional reaction. What was also real was your physical reaction, physiological, right? You literally relaxed. Like some of y'all were like, oh, right? You literally were having a good day because I literally gave you imaginary money, and the imaginary money helped you to feel better about life for at least a moment, right? That's very powerful. That really speaks to how mindset really does affect us in very, very real ways. Like when they have these studies that say that you can make yourself sick by thinking negative, by operating on that low vibrational frequency, or how you can make yourself well by thinking positive all the time. Well, I think that's a good template. I think that's a good example of just how that mindset piece plays a big part in your physical reaction. In fact, my wife, who's a therapist, she's the head of our Black financial therapy department, and she basically explained to me a technique that therapists use in order to help people to feel better about their situation, to deal with stress, stuff like that, is they have she says that stress and unhappiness or something like that. I think of stress cannot live in a relaxed body. Like this anxiety and stress. Anxiety is a big one. She says depression and anxiety go hand in hand. Depression and anxiety in the Black community is very, very high. A lot of it relates to undiagnosed, untreated trauma. And so she says that anxiety and stress cannot live inside a relaxed body. So what there a lot of therapists do is they give you techniques that will relax your body. And also they give you visualization and breathing exercises that will relax your mind because your body and your mind are deeply connected, right? And so, just a little tidbit on that. That's what I do every morning. I get up and I just breathe and I reflect on positive things and I think about my day and I just try to get myself in a good headspace to get ready to do what I have to do, later on in the day. And also the thing with money that's interesting is that not only does your mind affect your money, but your money affects your mind, right? So let me know if you know what I'm talking about. That your mind affects your money, right? If you have the right mindset. We've talked a little bit about this in our financial consciousness training. We're going to keep talking about this. Your mindset, if you operate from a scarcity mindset, if you operate from a negative mindset, if you operate from just from where every decision is made out of fear, it's going to be very, very hard for you to make money because making money and building wealth requires a certain amount of capacity to take on risk. If you don't take on risk, then chances are it's going to be very difficult for you to make money, right? And the other piece to that is that if you have an expansive mindset and you're okay with taking calculated risks and you approach things and mentally that sort of use the tools that we've discussed so far in this class, then you're more likely to have money come to you, right? Just even the abundance mindset. Like I gave you guys the example of my cousin who never went to college and doesn't have a bachelor's degree or anything like that. And he literally just said money's everywhere. I see money's all over the place. And so effectively that mind money connection is something I want you to really think and process quite a bit. It's not hocus pocus. It's not me making things up. This is 100% true. Professor Andrew Lo at MIT basically argued that that money affects the same region of your brain as cocaine. They literally, the reason that you had that high when I gave you that imaginary $250 million a second ago in that experiment we did at the beginning of the class, the reason you felt that high is because your brain released these endorphins and what's the other dopamine. Your brain released dopamine. It's the same thing that gets released when you eat your favorite food, when you get a chance to kiss a pretty girl or a handsome man or your husband or your wife. It's the same thing that gets released when your favorite football team wins a game, right? So my condolences to all Cowboys and Eagles fans. So effectively, all this sort of is connected. And what's interesting, and then this is the reflection I want you to really drill into, is where did this come from, and when did this start in your life, right? And so give me 1 second here. Uh, okay, so one thing that I would say to you is that if you are a person who wants to understand money better, I would encourage you to take that moment to really try to see if you can understand yourself first and also how money affects you psychologically, right? Where was your first relationship with money, right? So let's do this really quick. Let's do a quick experiment. Write this in the chat in one word. If you were to describe your emotional reaction to money when you were a child, what would you say? Like, how did you view money? Did you view money as opportunity? Did you view money as something that was stressful? Did you view money as something that was abundant? Did you view money as something that was hard to get? Okay, Angel says dirty. Let's see. AC Salam says non. I don't know what non means. I'm sorry. I apologize. Christian says opportunity. Henry says a tool. Bay says endless. Okay, endless money. Good for you. James says scarce. James Keller says buy candy. Denise says it was always there. Dorothea says got me what I wanted. Darlene says hard to get. Stephen Gordon says excitement. Okay, well, it's so these reactions allow you to really understand your emotional connection to money that's formed during childhood. If you grow up in a household where money is something that nobody ever discusses because maybe they think it's taboo to talk about money, then you're going to carry that into adulthood. If you grow up in a household where you falsely believe that people who have money are just better people and that they're just, the people that you want to hang out with and be friends with, then you're going to carry that into adulthood. You're going to want to be friends with people that are rich, or maybe you want to date somebody that has money. Maybe you'll think that somebody is more successful because they have money. If you grew up believing that money is evil, then you're going to grow up, then you're going to carry that into adulthood. Right? You're going to run away from money. You're going to basically shun money. You're going to say money is bad. You'll see a black-owned business that's making money, and you'll say, oh, they must be evil because look at how much money they're making. And so in fact that often misquoted Bible, they say money is the root of all evil, but that's actually the love of money is the root of all evil. These are all belief systems that we develop, through time in our lives, and some of these beliefs can be questioned and challenged. It doesn't mean that they're wrong or that they're right. It just means that they define us, and it's very important to understand how these things shape you, so that you can then understand just sort of how to process money in your life and how to form a healthy relationship with money that will allow your money to hit the level that you need in order for you to feel comfortable. A lot of people are stressed over money. A lot of black folks, if you really look at the lives of us, the biggest stressor for most black people in America is probably money. Give me a yes if you would agree with that assessment. The biggest stressor for black people in America, and really maybe around the world, is money. Money, money, money. Money is the biggest stressor. I found myself tweeting this morning at Elon Musk because I'm actually kind of a fan of Elon, and I don't get offended that he's conservative and I'm not as conservative as him or anything like that. I'm probably a little, because I don't know what I am. I have no idea, but I don't normally get offended by anything Elon says, and I wasn't really offended. I don't take it too personally, but he did say something about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and so this is the first day where I realized Elon Musk grew up in the middle of apartheid, right? Because like his comment on diversity was just like, oh Lord, come on, man. So basically he put up this horrible statement about how corporations have hired so many non-white people, and they've hired fewer white people, right? And that white people are suffering because of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I don't agree with it. I'm not going to say you have to agree with me or whatever. This is not a political space right now. I want to talk about you, and I want to talk about how to make our lives better. But I did actually tweet back, and I said, I normally rock with you. I said, but the problem with what you're saying that is that you don't acknowledge the fact that so much was stolen from black people. $13 trillion in wealth was stolen from black people. I said, so if you ever get to Mars one day in your little rocket ships, just know that the money that you use to get to Mars, the financing you get from those banks, largely comes from the fact that so much money was stolen from black people. And so this is that conversation about economics that I want to sort of point you to a little bit, because there is sort of a variation in terms of how we even view money and economics, right? In the sense that some of us look at money and the exchange of money as jobs, right? Some of us look at money in terms of income. Some of us look at money in terms of wealth. And so what Elon was doing is he was pointing to jobs and saying, all these jobs are being taken away from white people, and that's not fair, right? And I don't really I really think it's very important that for you to understand economics at a deep level, you got to go beyond thinking about jobs and even beyond thinking about income. It really pretty much comes down to wealth. Wealth is kind of the biggest driving factor when it comes to money. And so really what happened was in that conversation was I said, yeah, you're talking about jobs and all that stuff, but the reason that you have the job disparities in the first place is because there's a wealth issue. And then I also challenged him, and I've said this to you guys before. I said, I dare you to go to any major city in America right now, and they got all thousands of skyscrapers in all these cities, at least hundreds of them, that are worth over $100 million at least. Some of them worth over $1 billion. I said, I dare you to find 5 skyscrapers in any major city that are owned by black people. Out of hundreds or even thousands in every city, I dare you to find 5 in those cities that are owned by black people. And I know he can't do it because it's not possible. But the thing about it though, and it wasn't, and my goal was not to just go tell off Elon. I don't care about that. That's silly. And again, I can, I'd look at it neutrally. I admire the company that he built. I think you can learn from everybody, and that's where I stand on that. But I would say that part of our stress when it comes to money, part of our stress when it comes to economics, is because we don't understand economics at a deep level. We don't understand how the economics of our country work. And so part of the reason that you see so many people doing uncomfortable things for money, being unhappy over money, experiencing anxiety and depression over money is because there is, generally speaking, a lack of money and a lack of opportunities in the Black community relative to everyone else. And now I say relative to everyone else because actually Black people are among the richest people on the planet. We actually make more money than, and I think I've shown you all the statistics where I could name literally 200 or 300 countries where Black people have more income than all those countries. So we're well, I mean I'm talking about big countries. I'm talking about like Russia and stuff like that. Like and Russia has hypersonic missiles, by the way. They have these hypersonic nuclear missiles that we don't know how to track, and they can actually like hit a major city with these hypersonic missiles because they fly really low under the radar. Kind of a scary thought. Didn't mean to mess up your morning, but it's true. So this country that can afford hypersonic missiles that even the U.S. Defense Department can't replicate, if they can afford that, and we have more money than them, then imagine what happens with Black economics and Black wealth if we become financially conscious enough to know what to do with that money, to make certain decisions with that money, to develop infrastructure with that money. I personally think that that's the issue. That's one issue that we have, is that it's not that the resources aren't there. It's that we don't know what to do with them. We don't know how to sort of construct them properly. It's like having a bunch of little pieces. It's like having 10,000 puzzle pieces on the floor, but you don't know how to put the puzzle together. Right. So economic structure is like putting a puzzle together. And we don't necessarily have that commitment to developing and learning how this structure works, how these institutions are built. If we develop that, if we really pushed hard on that, this is where building sturdy children matters. We talked about being sturdy yesterday, STERDY. If you build sturdy children who are thinking in terms of systems and institutions, they can do that. They can put those puzzle pieces together. Like I was just watching, I told you guys, I'm so fascinated with war. I think studying war is like really interesting to me. Like I met Will Smith's brother one time. His name's Harry. He looks just like Will. It was very crazy. So I met Harry in LA. He'd heard about me or something. He wanted to meet me. I said, sure, absolutely. So I went over and I met him, and he pulls up in this not really nice car. It's like a Maybach or something. And we sat down and I talked to Harry for like 2.5 hours. And then I met him again 2, 3 days later. And we talked another 2.5 hours. And the reason we talked so long is because we both have a strong interest in two areas: money and war, money and finance and warfare. And because I think he managed Will's money for a long time back when they were doing all the deals with the studios and all that. And so anyway, one thing so the other day I was watching, and by the way, Harry's very smart, and it showed me that Will Smith actually comes from a really intelligent family. That's why I was really surprised that he decided to slap Chris Rock. I thought that was out of character, but whatever. But anyway, so this fascination with war is really interesting. So last night I was watching this documentary on Pearl Harbor, and how just how the Japanese spent so much time intricately planning this attack on Pearl Harbor. Like they spent like a year and a half figuring out like how to develop the torpedoes in a certain way so they wouldn't sink too far down into the bay, because Pearl Harbor is really shallow and they didn't want the torpedoes to get stuck. They studied the military base to figure out when the aircraft carriers would be inside the harbor and when they wouldn't, and where the battleships were located, where the airfields were located. They spent a lot of time figuring out, how to travel across the sea without being detected by the Americans, and get their aircraft carriers close enough to launch an attack. They had multiple waves of airplanes that would come in and drop. They had planes that would drop torpedoes. There were low flying planes. They had planes that dropped these direct. They were, I think they call them dive bombers, that would bomb, like they would dive down and bomb. And then they had these high altitude planes that would drop these super heavy, gigantic, massive, bombs onto the planes, to just like onto the ships, and just blow them up, right? And so they just, and I was really just watching this, and I was like in awe of just how much planning was really put into this, like how much they really thought. Now, it was a bad idea, right? Because I mean, we know how that ended. It ended with Hiroshima, right? It's like, okay, well, you bring a knife to the fight, America's gonna bring a gun, right? And it's sad. Like, war makes me sad, but war is fascinating to me for a couple of reasons. One, because it shows you the limits of human potential. Like everybody in a war tries their hardest except for the cowards, right? Everybody in a war, the winners won because they did everything they could to win. the losers lost because they didn't do everything that they could to win, or maybe they didn't have enough to win or whatever. But everybody does their best, right? Because it's life or death. Like you're not going to be pushed further than you get pushed in the middle of war, right? And so I was just watching this, and I saw the amount of planning that they did for this big attack, which again I think it was just a terrible mistake. I don't know why they thought it made sense to attack the United States, but whatever. So anyway, what was interesting about this was the on the other side, the reason the United States seemed to get its butt kicked so bad was because they were totally unprepared. They were completely. I mean, they made the Japanese deliberately said we're going to attack on a Sunday morning after they've been partying all night and they're just chilling and sleeping in and they didn't have they had plenty of warning signs. They saw little Japanese submarines like in near the harbor that one of them they shot down, and that was a warning. They one guy on the radar saw a big old squadron of airplanes coming toward the harbor, and they said, oh, those must be American planes. We're not worried about it, right? Like there were all these little signs. And then the State Department sent a notice saying there's a warning. Get ready. Get on high alert. The Japanese are probably going to attack us. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. And I think that it was like it took time for the guy to get on the motorcycle to drive the message around, and then when they got it, they thought that they were going to attack somewhere else. So my point in bringing all this up is to say that really reminded me of number one thing that I always tell my kids, that preparation is the key to success, right? The disparity in this war was driven by extreme preparation faced against a lack of preparation, right? When you're not preactive or preemptive and you're just reactive, you're simply reacting to things that happen to you, then chances are you're going to lose every single battle. Right. And I think that that's a big challenge in the Black community. I think that we're trained to be reactive and not preemptive, not preactive. We're not or proactive. We're not sort of trained culturally to get ready, to really have everything prepared, have everything ready just in case it's actually, something goes down. We just sort of wait for something to happen. We remain vulnerable. Like, for example, if there was a nuclear bomb that went off tomorrow or a solar flare or something, and suddenly, the electrical grid goes off, there's no internet, there's no grocery stores, gas stations, hospitals, whatever, Black people would just, millions of us would just be dead. We're not ready at all. We're dependent on the system. We're just sort of sitting here waiting for something bad to happen. And I think that financially speaking, that there's a translation to that. I think that we're not ready for war. Our children are not ready. We don't prepare our children. We don't do the things necessary to make sure that they're good and that they're secure, just in case something bad happens. So when something bad happens, what do you tend to see? You tend to see this emotional, stressed out reaction. Like, I am really depressed because I don't have enough money. Well, why don't you have enough money? Well, because I can't get a job. Why don't you have a job? Well, because the white man won't give me one. Right? Like that's pretty much where we are. That's what we're trained to do. And so part of the reason that I'm not as popular as maybe I could have been if I were to say things that people understand, and also part of the reason that a lot of military people follow this platform. A lot of you are soldiers, and I want to say thank you for your service. I honor you every time I think about you. Is that there are people in the community who understand the importance of having a plan. There are people that understand that if you want to have a scenario where you avoid the pain and the stress of bad things happening, the way you get there is you make a plan. If your emotional reaction to financial devastation is a negative one, well, the solution is to have a plan. If you are worried, if you love your children enough that you don't want them to go through what you went through and to feel what you felt and to be as sad as you were and to be depressed and anxious the way you are, well, then you make a plan. You prepare them. You prepare them for war. Just like again, just like in Pearl Harbor, the United States was not ready. A lot of people died because nobody made a plan. In fact, I think the commander of the whole base was charged with dereliction of duty because he wasn't ready. He did not have his he didn't have his soldiers on a war footing. They were not prepared for an attack. And they said, you should have been ready. You should have known what you have to do. So ultimately, and thank you, Rhea, I see your comment. Tell your grandsons I said thank you for their service. And so the point of the matter is to say that I really believe that for Black people, And maybe it sounds extreme to say this, but I believe that people have declared war on us since the very beginning. I think that we're always the victims of these attacks. I think that there are people that really, really, really don't like us and really, really, really spent a lot of time taking from us, attacking us, harming us in a lot of ways. And so, to me, the most logical thing to do is to prepare. To be on a war footing, to be ready to, and some of us are, a lot of us are. But then the question becomes, what does that look like? What does that look like? So I did a lecture, and it's somewhere in the Black Business School. I'm sure if you Google it, you can find it somewhere. It was called The Economics of Self-Defense. The Economics of Self-Defense. And the reason I called it that was because I think that how about this? I see the world being built on economic warfare. I do. I see economics being used as a way to attack and control and harm other people. And so economic self-defense is something that I see for the entire community at large. That's the vision, that's the dream, that's the hope, the goal. I'd love to see our whole community engaging in preparation for economic warfare, but I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. Instead, I'd like to see you and your family, the thing you control your family, you control your environment. I want to challenge you to prepare for economic warfare. Because if you are prepared, then you avoid the pain of a lack of preparation. Like you think about after Pearl Harbor happened, it was terrible. There's black smoke coming up everywhere. People's bodies, they're burned so bad, the skin's coming off their body. People, there's oil all in the harbor. People, even they jump in the water, they're swimming in all this oil. All their battleships that they'd spent an insane amount of money on. The bunch of their battleships got destroyed, and they're just these mangled piles of metal, and people got trapped inside the ship when the ship capsized, so they died and drowned inside the ship. Just all these horrible things happen. So a lot of pain occurred, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of sadness happened. It was so the sadness was so deep that literally 80 years later, we still feel it. I'm gonna say something that's gonna make some of y'all gonna make fun of me. But I went to Pearl Harbor and I looked at the names of all the people that died, and I cried. My wife was like, "Are you okay? Why are you?" I said, "I don't know. I feel maybe I was here in a previous life, but something came over me. I cried. I felt it. I felt the energy of the sadness of what people must have felt when they got attacked, and so many people died primarily due to a lack of preparation. Right? I felt that. Right? Don't make fun of me. Don't call me a sellout, but I do. I feel like it was painful to me. It made me so sad. You know, and so what I would say to you is that another thing that makes me sad is when we go through all kinds of hell, all kinds of pain, sadness, depression. We die earlier. People go to prison. People just go through all kinds of hell because we're not prepared, right? Or because somebody did not prepare them. When you're 28 years old and you're struggling so bad financially that you have to do something terrible in order to get money, or you're depressed and anxious all the time, or you're constantly stressed out to the point where that stress might eventually kill you at an early age, um, that is due to the fact that somebody did not prepare you for what you were going to be dealing with. That's a lack of preparation. Because again, because I've mentioned to you all that um when I laid out that Black Wealth Master Plan with blackwealthmasterplan.com, you can go take a look. It's totally free. The $5 a day, $10 a day plan. That's literally me getting you battle ready for the future because your children are going to have to go to war. And I remember reading Sun Tzu's The Art of War, and he said battles are won before they begin. And then what he means by saying that battles are won before they begin is he's saying that preparation is the key to success. That's all he's saying. He's saying the team that's ready is going to win. The team that's prepared is going to win. So the thing about economics is this: it's very easy to prepare, but you cannot waste your time. So what I would encourage you to do is if financial stress makes you anxious or it upsets you or you don't want your children and grandchildren to feel that stress, then all you have to do is prepare because the attack is coming. The attack is coming. They're going to have some sort of financial attack. At some point, your daughter's going to go to a job where a man says either you sleep with me or you're going to lose your job. That the attack is coming. Your son is going to be in a situation where they're going to say either you do what I say, boy, or you're gonna lose your money, you're going to lose your job, or you're going to lose your NFL contract, or you're not going to get get the deal or whatever. The war is coming. I had a scenario where I spoke up on something that I felt very passionate about, and immediately I had a really expensive speaking engagement that was canceled, right? Where they were going to pay me good money and they canceled the engagement. So that was economic warfare. And the only reason I was able to withstand it and stand tall and strong and not be scared was because I was prepared. When Bill O'Reilly decided to do a whole episode about me being a so-called racist because because I have this pro-black disposition, I wasn't scared of losing that job at Syracuse University. I'd worked a lot of years. I was in school till I was 31 years old to get that job. And it sucked to know that I was going to lose my job because some guys making up lies about me on TV. But I wasn't scared. And the reason I wasn't scared is because I was prepared. I was prepared for battle. When I came in to this whole business, I told my brother, I said, these are the people I admire. I made a list. I said, I admire Michael Eric Dyson. I admire Cornel West. I admire Julianne Malveaux. I even admire some of the civil rights leaders at the time. Farrakhan was at the top of the list. But then even back then, I had an appreciation for Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. That's changed a little bit, right? Because my politics have changed. However, here's the thing. One thing I said to my brother is I said, one vulnerability that they have that they don't realize that they have is that if Cornel West or Michael Eric Dyson gets out of line and they start saying things that are a little too controversial or a little too pro-black, they're going to get economically attacked. If they have a book deal, the publisher's going to back out and take away their book deal. If they're on TV, they're going to get taken off TV. They're going to lose that income. If they're giving speeches with a speakers bureau, the speakers bureau is going to stop booking them, so it's going to affect their income because that's the way they attack you. They attack you with their economics. So what I told my brothers, I said, what we're going to do is different. Instead of me getting booked through a speakers bureau, we're going to create our own speakers bureau. It's called Great Black Speakers, and it became the largest black-owned speakers bureau in the country. If we want to publish books, we're going to publish our own books, and that's when we start. We were self-publishing before it became really popular, and I've sold well over 100,000 books on our own. If we want to if we want to get distribution, we're not going to lean on television. We're going to go toward the internet, and we're going to start digging out the trenches and building a platform. Now we have over 1 million subscribers on YouTube channels and all this other stuff, and 1 million different ways to reach our audience that doesn't require anybody's permission. And so this was preparing for war. This was avoiding the devastation that we feel when somebody pulls the rug out from under us. But this required long-term planning. It required like just sort of saying, okay, let's dig into this humble, painful, irritating task of digging the trenches and developing infrastructure instead of leaning on pre-existing infrastructure that can be taken away from us at any moment. So I would say to you that the same thing is true when it comes to your kids. Here's where I'm going to go. I'm going to come back to your kids and your grandkids, your nieces, nephews, any children in the community that you love. Remember, you do not have to have a child in order to be a parent. So I'm not talking just to the parents. I'm talking to anybody who cares about Black youth, anybody who cares about the Black community, anybody who cares about the future of Black people. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to make some sort of a plan so that when they hit the age of 25 or 30 years old, they are not dependent on the system to give them the things that they need. I'm not saying they have to be radical and off the grid and all that stuff. I'm talking about the basics. The things, at least a couple of things that the system should not be giving Black people on a regular basis. One is it should not be the primary source of our education. Number two, it should not be the primary source of our economics or our financial security. There's other areas I could talk about. We could talk about health and stuff like that, but let's just talk about those two things. The education's poisoned. It destroys millions of Black kids every year. I believe that the parent or the mentor or whatever should be the first line of defense when it comes to education. You have to put certain ideas in their head. Every Wednesday night, we do Powernomics training in the Black Business School. It's free. You can join us there. Bring your kids, bring your grandkids, bring your nieces, nephews, all of them. They're going to learn. They're going to learn from people like me. The second piece on the economics is that most Black children are financially stressed and financially anxious and have financial depression, mainly because the only way they can eat is if white folks allow them to eat. That's it. Like if they stop letting them eat, then they starve. They starve. They are sliding on super thin ice. They have absolutely no backup plan. They are living paycheck to paycheck. So they are highly vulnerable to an economic attack. They're sitting ducks, just like when I told you the Americans were sitting ducks waiting for the Japanese to come in and just tear them up. We're in an even more vulnerable position than that, and we're under a greater amount of attack. So what has to occur is this: instead of leaning on, because again, what basically happens is the reason you get income is because somebody has a capital base and they use that capital base to generate income that they then share with you. Like you go to work every day, you work for Ford. Ford has a capital base. They use that capital base to distribute income to you, well, based on whether you do a good job. What Black people must do for the next generation is carve out the infrastructure. Just like I was telling you earlier, how me and my brother just carved out the infrastructure where you become the capital base, where you have the capital base that then allows you to distribute income to yourself and to others, in ways that are deemed appropriate. Now, the hard part about this is that our fascination with white folks leads us to want to be connected to their institutions. Why? Well, why? Well, because Ford Motor Companies are over 100 years old. So it's got this vast capital base, this powerful brand, this internationally recognized brand that you want to be affiliated with. Why? Well, because your self-esteem is low and you feel that you need to be validated by being associated with the institutions that have this kind of global power. That makes you feel better. That makes you feel more worthy. But here's the thing. The capital base I'm connected to is not one of these pre-established brands. I got a Nike swoosh on my shirt. Nike is not one of the capital bases I'm connected to. I'm not connected to capital bases like that. My capital base consists of things that are not these internationally established brands, like the Black Business School. It's a baby. It's been around for about 9 years, right? We're still growing this sucker. What else is my capital base? The name Boyce Watkins. I spent over 12 years or more building the name Boyce Watkins. So when I die, I can leave that capital base to my children and they can use my name to make income. What other capital bases? I've got other little brands, like maybe my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. It's not some international bestseller that sold millions of copies. No, it's an Amazon bestseller that sold tens of thousands of copies. But that works. That gets the job done. That allows me to give the middle finger to anybody who tells me to sit down and shut up and be quiet, because we got this. We have a capital base. We have a home base we can lean into, and we're more proud of this capital base than we would be by being associated with Nike or Google or Ford or whatever. And Nike, Google, and Ford have an advantage. They've been around over 100 years. A lot of your family businesses may have been around only 5 years, but you can still form an adequate enough capital base that you can at least defend yourself against economic warfare. When I got up this morning and thought about what I wanted to talk to you about, there was not 1 second where I sat back and got anxious and nervous and somehow felt that if I say the wrong thing, a white man is going to fire me from my job, or even a Black man for that matter. I did not feel that way. I said, I'm good. I got my little capital base here, and my capital base is part of that's where your economic security comes from. It comes from your investments in stock. It comes from your real estate. It comes from your businesses that you own. And it's not that hard to build a capital base if you know what you're doing and you give yourself time. So if you build a capital base for your children, that should be the number one goal for your child. The number one goal for your child should not be to get them into Harvard. It should not be to help them make the football team. It should not be to help them get in a position to get a great job. Your number one goal for your child or your grandchild should be to help them get a capital base so that they can step away from the world or from the system in case the heat gets too hot. In case they get in a situation where diplomacy isn't working anymore. See, the reason the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor was because they were in peace negotiations, because the Japanese needed oil to finish their invasion of the countries in Southeast Asia or wherever. And the Americans had the oil, and they sat down at the table and had a peace talk and tried to talk it out. And then when the Americans said, no, screw you, we're not going to give you what you want, the Japanese said, okay, we're about to go in here and light that butt up. We're about to go, let's do it. The invasion is a go. right? That was their plan B. That was their nuclear option, so to speak. So the point of the matter is that with your kid, they're going to grow up. Maybe they're going to go to school and get a good job, and there's going to be peace for a while. Everything's going to seem wonderful. They might get lulled to sleep because they're going to believe they live in this post-racial society where being black is not a big deal anymore, and racism's a thing of the past. And we love you, Tyrone. We're glad to have you at the firm, and everything's going great. And then one day, war is going to be declared. One day, at some point, something's going to go down that's going to really push that boy to the limit. At some point, something's going to happen. A white girl he's sleeping with is going to accuse him of sexual harassment. They're going to fire him on his day off because they're laying people off, or they're going to decide that diversity, equity, and inclusion is no longer a corporate agenda and his black butt needs to hit the door. Whatever. They're going to go to his YouTube channel and find out that he's speaking pro-black stuff and just realize suddenly he's a dangerous Negro, and then he's going to be at war. He's going to be at war. He's going to be at war, and his ability to fight that war in an appropriate fashion is going to come down to whether or not you chose to prepare him for battle. It's going to come down to whether or not you chose to make the decision early to give him a capital base to prepare him so he can fight the battle like a man and not get beat down like a punk. Because losing your job is traumatic when you ain't got no money. But it's wonderful if you got plenty of money in the bank. Getting rejected or blackballed really can depress you if you've leveraged everything on hoping that this system continues to accept you. But it's not a big deal if you've got a solid plan B. It's not that hard if you've got stocks and bonds and investments and wealth and real estate and stuff that your mama and daddy started investing in for you back in the day. So if you want to know what the solution is for young black people to be prepared for economic warfare, it's that their parents and grandparents have to help them invoke a plan B. You got to have these kids ready for war. I think the Pearl Harbor example is perfect because this is what was going on. The United States and Japan were friends, and they were sitting down as friends, talking it out, trying to figure out how to resolve things as friends. And the reason we got our ass kicked at Pearl Harbor was because the Japanese had a plan B. They were planning their plan B. They spent a year and a half planning the invasion of Pearl Harbor. They didn't know if they were going to do it. They just said, we're going to be ready. We're going to be ready in case negotiations fail. So they had all the planes ready and the ships ready. They were developing their weapons and systems and training their soldiers and teaching them how to drop bombs from 10,000 feet in the air. They were doing all of that to be ready. They said, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. We're going to be ready. Well, the United States wasn't ready. The United States, they were partying and, not paying attention and, oh, ain't nobody hurt us. We good. We're fine. We're okay. They were doing what I see a lot of our people doing. Just everything's fine. We're friends. We're cool. Everything's okay. And then when the stuff hit the fan, when the heat got hot, they got obliterated. They got absolutely obliterated. And that's what I see. I see with us. I don't hate white people. I want to make that clear. I have to say that because people think I don't like white people when I talk like this, but it's not that I don't like white people. I don't trust anybody who's been harming our people for 400 years. I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't hate every white person I meet. I have lots of white people that I can sit with and talk with and whatever, right? I just have to make sure that you understand what the real deal is. You got people that you think are your friends, but they're not really your friends, or they're your friends until something goes wrong, and then suddenly they become your enemy. So I know that I believe that white corporate America, for example, is my friend until I get a little bit too black, or until our politics diverge, or until we're sitting at the negotiating table like the US and the Japanese, and suddenly they say, we don't really like this guy anymore. And then that's when the warfare commences. And if they're ready, they're ready. They got the institutions. They control the jobs. They have the resources in place. I don't think we're ready. I really don't. And the thing about it is that being economically ready doesn't mean you have to be competitive with every major industry. It doesn't mean you have to have black-owned automobile manufacturers and all this grand vision. I love Dr. Claude Anderson, but when he talks about his big powernomics vision of black people owning all this industry, I start getting a little overwhelmed. Like, wow, that's a lot. I hope it happens, but I'd rather just start at least family by family. Family by family. See, while it might be difficult for me to explain to you how to start a black-owned automobile manufacturer, it's not hard for me to explain to you how you and your kids can have basic financial security. You could do that with a decision that takes 5 minutes and $5. You really could. You could just go again, blackwealthmasterplan.com. That's my master plan. And it's not going to impress you because it ain't complicated. It's not some intricate, detailed diagram. No, no. It's literally like just go to an app and if you, for every kid you have, try to put $10 a day into an S&P 500 index fund and just set it to where it invests consistently. And then by the time that those children are 25 to 30 years old, they're going to have plenty of money in the bank and they'll be able to withstand any economic attack that comes from any direction. And it's literally that basic. And then it might come with some extra stuff, like if you want to teach your kids about wealth, the KID model, knowledge investment discipline. That's what we have the STURDY model, STERDY, systems, technology, entrepreneurship, relationships, and delegation for the youth. Right? We talked about this in the previous conversation. If you want to see the previous lectures, just go to drboyceelevate.com, drboyceelevate.com. All that's everything we've done. We've done 15 of these so far. This is number 16. Everything that we've done so far is at drboyceelevate.com. So feel free to go there. And also, if you want to get the stuff, some resources involving kids, just text the word youth to 87948. Text youth to 87948. So don't be overwhelmed by this. There is a plan. It's very easy to implement, and I encourage you to do that. Now, let me just pop up. It's so funny. Sometimes I told you sometimes God leads me in a different direction, and I end up talking about something that's different from what I actually officially planned to talk about. But what I want to do is actually go back. I'm gonna go to our day 15 reflection because yesterday, in fact, we got so caught up in something that I talking about Dr. King that I didn't do our day 15 reflection. So I'm gonna give you day 15 and day 16 at the same time so we can try to get back on track. And what I'll probably end up doing is adding an extra day or two at the end so we can make sure we get through all 30 days. But the day 15 reflection actually has to do with health and wealth. And it basically has to do with, or the question that you can ask yourself, and you can fill this out in your book, the 30 Days to Black Wealth and Power, is what do you plan to do to ensure that your physical health is strong as you build wealth? Are you going to exercise or go to the doctor, right? So this is part of having a health plan because ultimately, when you talk about health and wealth, we ignore our health in order to pursue wealth, but then we lose all of our wealth trying to get our health back. Big pharma will take all your wealth. A lot of bad habits when it comes to your physical body can eventually catch up with you. Those medications will take all of your wealth. In fact, the capitalism of America, which you should be very conscious about, is one where they will sell you donuts in the front of the grocery store and then sell you diabetes medication in the back. So they literally make money from you when you are healthy, and then they make money from you when you are sick. So that's the day 15 reflection. Now, what I'm going to do is skip this one real quick, and the slides will be available. I'm going to put the slides and the recordings inside drboyceelevate.com. And the day 16 reflection that relates to emotions and money is I want you to try to reflect on your emotional relationship with money. What emotional reaction do you have when you don't have enough money? Hey, I want you to really think on that, and I want you to write. So I want you to, this is your homework. So for today, I want you to do 15 and 16. So for 15, we're talking about health and wealth, and I want you to reflect on that, specific steps you're going to take, because our goal is to build a plan so that by the time you hit day 30, you will have a full financial plan that'll prepare you for the future. And then day 16 is emotional awareness. So your financial consciousness comes down to becoming emotionally aware to how you react to money. How do you feel when you don't have enough money? How does money make you feel? You can reflect on your spending habits. When you make a purchase, does spending money make you feel better? There is such a thing as a shopping addiction. One of the things about corporations that sell you products is they lean heavily on you not being conscious in order to sell you things. They sell you things in a non-conscious framework. And in fact, a video I want to bring into class probably tomorrow is that video. Has anybody seen that video, How to Sell to the Negro? How many of you have seen that video, How to Sell to the Negro? Well, in that video, they specifically talk about what psychologists have learned about Black people and our low self-esteem and how our economic consciousness operates so they can actually extract more money from us. So you got to reflect on your spending habits, how, and not just what you do, but how it makes you feel. Also, when you pay bills, do you have anxiety, indifference, or satisfaction? How do you feel when you pay your bills? I feel fulfilled. When I pay my bills, I feel like I'm doing a good job. I feel very proud. I feel like I'm handling my business, right? For some people, it may create other emotions. Number three, when you think about wealthy people, how do you feel about wealthy people? Do you admire them? Are you jealous of them? Do you not care? Just thinking about what it means to have more money. How, if someone makes more money or if someone in your family is financially successful, how do you feel about that? I will say my personal bias is that I think money is great if you see it as a tool. Money does not buy you happiness. Money does not buy you happiness. Money does not buy you happiness. However, money can give you the day off so you can spend your time figuring out what's going to make you happy, right? So that's one way to kind of view wealth acquisition in a way that is productive and positive. Reactions to financial news. One thing that happens psychologically that I want you to become very conscious about is that the financial news is used to manipulate people in a major way. Everyone sort of looks at headlines and they're always looking for these stock market crashes. They're looking for recessions. They're looking for these anxiety invoking statements regarding the state of the economy. And I mentioned to you all that part of your economic consciousness training that I want to give you is I want you to stop thinking about stock market crashes as crashes. A crash to me is something that indicates like the end of the world, or it's over now, it's done. It's a, you know, um, what you're really seeing is not so much a crash. They'll call it a crash because that's more dramatic. But what's really happening is you might just see a correction. It's a correction. It's just, okay, we thought Nvidia was worth $400 a share. Now we realize it's only worth 380 or 350, but still a valuable company. The company's still making money. We just don't think it's worth what we thought it was worth before. And if you view it that way, then you can sort of see the big picture. See, the one of the things about investor vision, which is something I want to give you, like that's another level of economic consciousness. Like you think about consciousness, I when I visualize consciousness, I think of it as operating on different levels. Like playing chess versus checkers, or the second dimension versus the third, fourth, and fifth dimension, right? Or like when I was flying an airplane, you guys know I fly airplanes now. I gained a level of consciousness about my environment when I saw what it felt like to fly 4,000 feet above a traffic jam, right? So I'm looking at this traffic jam, and my wife to get to her mother's house in Gary takes about like at least 45 minutes to an hour, even when the traffic's good. On that day, it would have taken 2 hours because there was a backlog of traffic. Well, because I was in this airplane going, maybe about 150 miles an hour, I got there in like 20 minutes. And I said, this is so crazy. I'm looking down at this traffic flying over the cars. And so because I leveled up, I had a perspective that was different. I didn't just see freeways and stop signs like a lot of people see when they're traveling. Usually all you see is a freeway. Instead, I saw mountains and valleys and hills and farms and all this stuff I never would have seen if I was still on that lower vibrational frequency, if I was still on that lower level. So what I want you to do is I want you to elevate, just like that airplane. I want to see you elevate so that you can see things in a perspective that someone can't see if they're trapped in the moment, if they're bogged down by what's happening today or what's happening right now, or what's happening right in front of them. Do you understand? Because those people unfortunately get caught in the traffic jam. And I don't want you to live in the traffic jam. I want you to get up in the air where the traffic is very clear, where you'll see possibilities everywhere. Right. And so, because think about it, me being in an airplane meant I could fly over stuff. I could go faster. I could go in whatever direction, east, northwest, east, south. I could go diagonal. I can go straight to the target. I don't have to go which way the freeway goes. Right. There's a freedom. Pay attention. Let me know if you get what I'm saying here. There's a freedom in elevating your consciousness. People that elevate to a higher level, this is a mathematical term here, by the way. People that operate on a higher frequency on a higher dimension have a type of freedom. They have a higher degree of freedom than people who operate on lower dimensional frequencies. They just do. In mathematics, we call that degrees of freedom. And what we find with degrees of freedom, and this is the last thing I'm going to say before we bounce out of here. We're going to do the portfolio power play right after that, right after this. And I'll send you, if you're in the class, just text morning to 87948. I'll send you a link. You can join us there. Um, the thing about people that operate on a higher frequency and a higher dimension, the thing about degrees of freedom is that the more degrees of freedom you have, the more you can optimize. That's what I want to explain. This is true mathematically. When I taught math at the University of Kentucky, we literally had training that showed math students that if you're trying to solve a problem and optimize your outcome, you are going to find a more optimal solution if you have fewer degrees of freedom. So the more freedom you have, the better your outcomes can be. So the same thing is true with life. A free black man or a free black woman can solve problems in a way that is better than a person that is incarcerated or enslaved. And part of the freedom starts up here, starts with consciousness, right? And then that freedom of thought translates into things like financial freedom, which gives you even more abilities to optimize. And what is the goal here? What does it mean to optimize? Well, in my view, I'm going to take a chance here and speculate that optimization for you could be something as simple as being happy. I really believe that you want to be happy. Give me a yes if you agree that that we can agree that your goal is to be happy in this life and you want your children to be happy. I think happy, that's what it is, happiness, right? Slavery makes you unhappy. So I just want you to be happy. That makes it easy, right? So that means instead of me trying to predict whether you want to be rich or not be rich, or you want to make your money this way or that way, I'm not going to speculate on that. I'm just going to speculate on the basis. I like to keep it simple, that you want to be happy. And that's what I do with my kids. I literally, when the 13-year-old, when we talk about what she wants to do for a living, I'm like, I don't know. I can't tell you I'm not gonna tell you what profession to pick. I just want you to be happy. So let's talk about how we can increase the degrees of freedom, eliminate the constraints from your life. Pay attention now, so that you can optimize happiness. You can solve the equation at the highest level and be as happy as possible. That's the goal. The things we make complicated are actually quite simple. They really are. They start with the simple stuff. So I want to start with the simple stuff, and then we work our way backward and figure out all the details after that. So that's it. I gotta go. Portfolio Power Play starts now. If you text the word morning to 87948, I will send you a text out in the next 10 minutes, and you can join us for that too if you want to. I just got this obligation to the other students. I want to make sure I get there. Also, a couple of reminders. Number one, if you want to get all the recordings of everything we've done, you could go to drboyceelevate.com. That's drboyceelevate.com. And also, if you want to get access to some of the trainings and the material we have for youth, just text the word youth to 87948. You can text youth to 87948 and I'll send that to you. Okay, everybody. So I hope this was beneficial. I hope we learned something today. We're going to be back tomorrow morning. We're on day 16. We're going to keep going to day 30. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm loving this. I'm having so much fun. And I feel like we are really conquering the world. I think we are the baddest people on the planet. We can't be stopped. Can't nobody mess with you. Tequila and Darlene and Sharon, you're the baddest. And I honor you for this. And I respect all of you who've been coming in here every day. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Feel free to come in, bring your family, bring your kids, bring whoever. It's fine. You don't have to pay for extra people. Just y'all can share a Zoom link, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care now. Bye-bye.